Dapo Adekunle was the pride of his neighborhood, a fresh university graduate with a bright future and connections waiting to open doors for him. He was tall, smart, charming, and had just secured an internship in a respected oil company in Lagos. Everyone expected him to marry into wealth, to align with a political family or a business mogul's daughter. But Dapo had other plans. He had fallen in love with Amaka, the quiet girl who cleaned offices in the complex where he worked. She was humble, graceful in her silence, and carried herself with dignity that couldn't be bought. She had no expensive hair, no designer bag, and barely spoke unless spoken to. But there was something about her presence that calmed Dapo. She saw through the flash of society and looked at the man within. Their friendship started when Dapo forgot his ID card one morning. Amaka helped him talk his way into the building without raising alarms. He thanked her with suya and soft drink. And from that day, they talked every chance they got. By the end of 3 months, he was completely smitten. When Dapo told his mother about her, Mama Adekunle nearly collapsed. A cleaner? Do you know who you are? Are you mad? But Dapo insisted. Mama, she is not just a cleaner. She is kind. She is honest. She brings me peace. Nobody understood him, so he stopped trying to explain. Against the noise, the mockery, and the resistance, he married Amaka in secret in a quiet court registry with only one friend as a witness. They moved into a small one-room apartment on the mainland. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Amaka cooked with love, encouraged him when he doubted himself, and always prayed over his resume before any job interview. She believed in him fiercely, even when he began to lose faith in himself. But Lagos was tough. Job promises fell through. Internships ended without conversion. The money finished faster than it came. And through it all, Amaka never complained. She sold Puff Puff by the roadside to support their meals and even learned tailoring in the evenings. People whispered behind Dapo's back, "How can a whole Dapo Adekunle end up with that girl?" Still, he held her hand, at least for now. But deep down, seeds of doubt were being planted. Seeds that would one day grow into something that could break them both. The months rolled by, and hardship began to bite like a hungry dog. Dapo had hoped that struggle would be temporary. But 2 years in, there was still no stable job, no breakthrough, no miracle. He watched his friends drive new cars, rent better apartments, and post business-class selfies on Instagram. Meanwhile, he shared a rickety mattress with Amaka in a stuffy one-room flat, eating Gary more times than he cared to admit. Frustration took over, not just with Lagos, but with Amaka. He started seeing her not as the woman who supported him, but as a symbol of his stagnation. Maybe if I had married someone with connection, things would be different, he muttered one night after a fight. Amaka's eyes widened. Is that what you think of me now? He looked away. He didn't answer, but the silence spoke louder than words. Around that same time, Mama Adekunle returned from the UK with a mission: rescue her son from this shame of a marriage. She had come with good news. Chief Bankole, a longtime business partner of Dapo's late father, was offering to sponsor Dapo's business idea, but on one condition. He must marry my niece, Tinny, Chief Bankole said. We are building a dynasty, not doing charity. Mama Adekunle didn't hesitate. She pressured, begged, manipulated until Dapo cracked. Amaka, I think we made a mistake, he told her coldly one morning. I'm tired. This marriage, it's not working. She stared at him, lips trembling. Dapo, we can fix it, eh? But he had already made up his mind. I need more than love. I need to survive. He packed his things and walked out that same day. A week later, he signed divorce papers and married Tinny in a lavish ceremony sponsored by Chief Bankole. There were celebrities, champagne, and praise. Dapo smiled for the cameras like a man reborn. Everyone clapped and praised him. They said he made a smart choice. No one remembered the girl who once washed his shirts and sold Puff Puff so they could eat. No one asked how she was doing. But life had its own plans, and her story was far from over. Months passed, and the world began to shift in ways no one could have imagined. One day, Lagos buzzed with headlines. Billionaire Chief Kenneth MBA searches for long-lost daughter after 28 years. It was on every blog, radio station, and evening news. Chief Kenneth MBA, the reclusive real estate tycoon who owned estates across Nigeria and Ghana, had fallen gravely ill. With no wife and no known children, he shocked the nation by revealing that he once fathered a child in his youth, a child he never met, a child he believed didn't exist. He said the girl's mother was a university girlfriend, a woman he left without saying goodbye. He had ignored her when she told him she was pregnant, assuming she only wanted his money. Now, with age and regret, he wanted to find that daughter and leave everything to her. He released a public appeal. If you were born in Enugu in 1995 to a woman named Adeobi and have this birthmark on your back, please come forward for a DNA test. Amaka's friend, Chika, saw the news and froze. She remembered the birthmark Amaka had on her shoulder, the one shaped like a small crescent moon. She remembered the old photo Amaka kept of her mother and a man she'd never spoken much about. Amaka, are you sure you don't want to check this out? Chika asked. At first, Amaka dismissed it. Please, I have enough problems already. I'm just trying to survive. But something in her heart stirred. Something that wouldn't let her rest. She went for the test quietly. No expectations. No dreams. Just closure. 2 weeks later, a convoy pulled up at her tailoring shop in Yaba. Men in black suits stepped out, holding envelopes and wearing dark glasses. One spoke with the calm authority. Miss Amaka is. Your DNA matched. You were Chief Kenneth MBA's only child. The street stopped. The ground shook. Time froze. In a flash, the girl Depo once called a burden became the billionaire heiress everyone wanted to know. Her face was splashed across the news. From cleaner to heiress, the Cinderella story of Amaka is. Daughter of rejection, now queen of an empire. Even Depo, now neck-deep in business trouble, saw it. His jaw dropped. The same woman he had discarded, the one he called the reason he was stuck, was now richer, more respected, and more powerful than anyone he had ever known. And this was just the beginning. When Depo saw the news, something inside him crumbled. He reread the headline, Chief Kenneth MBA names long-lost daughter as sole heir. And there she was, Amaka, his ex-wife, the woman he had thrown aside like an old rag, now surrounded by cameras and security. Her hair was done in an elegant bun. Her clothes simple, but classy. Her eyes held a calm power that screamed. You made a mistake. Depo didn't know whether to scream or cry. His life, ironically, was in shambles. His second marriage to Tenny was already failing. Tenny didn't love him. She loved the business deal that came with him. When Chief Bankol's company took a hit from a major scandal, their sponsorship dried up. The business Depo tried to start failed. The connections? Gone. He went from moving into a Lekki duplex to squatting in a friend's boys' quarters. Meanwhile, Amaka's name kept growing. She didn't just inherit her father's wealth. She earned his respect. Her humility, intelligence, and clear-headed business sense stunned everyone. She wasn't the rich girl who flaunted privilege. She was the wise woman who knew suffering, valued people, and brought heart to boardroom tables. She used part of her inheritance to set up a scholarship fund for girls in poor communities and another part to launch a women's business support hub in Lagos. When asked why she did it, she replied simply, I know what it's like to be laughed at for being poor. I want to help women turn that laughter into legacy. Her story inspired millions. She was interviewed by CNN, invited to speak at women's summits, and even received a national award for her impact. As for Depo, he watched it all from the shadows. One day, broken and desperate, he showed up at one of her events, hoping to speak with her. He waited, hoping she'd grant him just 5 minutes. When she finally saw him, their eyes locked. For a moment, it was as if time reversed. But Amaka didn't cry. She didn't gloat. She simply walked over, smiled softly, and said, Thank you. He looked confused. For what? For leaving me. If you hadn't, I'd never have discovered who I really was. Then she turned and walked away, surrounded by grace, leaving him standing in the very silence he once gave her. In the weeks that followed their encounter, Depo couldn't sleep. Amaka's words echoed in his head. If you hadn't left me, I'd never have discovered who I really was. He thought about the girl who once walked barefoot with him to job interviews, who stayed hungry so he could eat, who loved him when he had nothing. And now, the woman she had become, graceful, wealthy, and untouchable, made it clear that he was no longer part of her story. He tried to rebuild, but doors no longer opened. His name was no longer respected in business circles. The same people who once called him strategic now avoided him like plague. His marriage to Tinny officially collapsed. She returned to her father's estate, leaving Depo with unpaid debts and an empty house. Broke, alone, ashamed. Meanwhile, Amaka continued to rise, but with purpose. She kept her promise to remain grounded. Every Friday, she visited local schools, mentoring girls on confidence, integrity, and dreams. She refused to forget the market women who once gave her free tomatoes when she couldn't afford them. She set up small grants for them, ensuring their daughters never had to drop out of school again. One Saturday morning, while opening her new women's center in Enugu, a reporter asked, "What would you say to women who feel abandoned or underestimated?" She smiled, remembering the dusty street she once walked with a threadbare purse. Don't waste your energy proving people wrong. Prove yourself right. The world will catch up. As for Depo, he moved back to his hometown in Ilorin, working as a teacher in a secondary school, a far cry from the CEO he once imagined himself to be. But in his solitude, he began to reflect. Genuinely, he stopped chasing shortcuts and started mentoring his students, especially the boys, teaching them to never mock a woman with a dream. And maybe that, in its own way, was redemption. Because sometimes, the people we reject go on to build empires, and the lesson we're left with is not to chase them again, but to become better because of them. Amaka's story became a legend, not because she became rich, but because she never let bitterness win. She was poor. She was abandoned. But in the end, she was more than enough. And the world? It would never forget her name.